Welcome, everybody, to our conversation about why you need help in energy procurement. So, again, we're joined by David March, CEO of Exergy Energy. Yeah, good afternoon, Dave.
Hey, good afternoon. The beer's looking like it's coming along really well. I think
coming
maybe next week we'll take a vote for those people that have joined us through this journey of facial hair.
We'll see. We'll put a poll up. Whoever asks the best question gets to decide, beard or no beard.
Okay, there you go.
So, Dave, this is a good topic. So,
before you start, some housekeeping. Yeah. This is being recorded, everybody. If you've got a question, please put it in the chat. And if we don't get to it, we will comment on LinkedIn regarding that. Or please just contact us or drop us a note. Sorry.
Awesome. Now our legal won't be mad at me. So the question of why you need help in energy procurement. So that's an interesting one. It's, for decades, it was just, hey, I have an energy broker that just says, here's the lowest rate, lock it in. That's all I thought about. So since businesses have been procuring energy that way forever, and they're currently using the brokers to help them, what's changed to cause companies to need help in their energy procurement?
Okay, well, there's a certain fallacious assumption there that they've been using brokers for a long time. That's not actually true, and still in a lot of places in the country that are not deregulated, they don't necessarily have brokers. And as you know, you just ran a webinar last week. Lubbock, Texas just went from essentially a regulated to a deregulated utility. So people are going from, I had one vendor, which was the municipal utility, to now it's like, the wild, wild west of Texas. The things that basically have changed are a couple. One is we have seen increase in deregulation, et cetera. But two factors have really, really increased the complexity of what is going on. Number one on that is, I'm going to call it the monoculture of the electricity market. It used to be we were fairly diversified in our electricity generation. We had coal, we had gas, we had oil, we had nuclear, we had hydro, et cetera, et cetera. It is now literally dominated by natural gas. Coal is phased out. And then people say, well, what about, renewables? You got solar and wind and everything else. Yeah, but they need to be backed up by natural gas because they're intermittent. So what's happening is natural gas is really, the pricing of natural gas is really what's dominating the marketplace. Now, that has an interesting implication to businesses. It used to be that the electricity's price was not that correlated with their natural gas price as well, right? So there was sort of like this, you think of it as an internal diversification of their energy costs. If electricity prices went up, natural gas may have gone down, and they weren't really correlated. Now they are. And that has a huge implication. Like if prices go up, you're going to get hit on both sides. There's no countervailing help there, right? That's one thing. Number two is that the markets themselves have become so much more complex. They're not really free markets. Like you can think about the energy market as, I have choice and everything else. Yes, but have you ever looked at your energy bill? Let's be honest here, it's looking worse than a cell phone bill these days. There's so many line items and everything else because the energy markets have now become both political, and I don't mean that necessarily in a negative way, political because we've got to do things about climate change. So there's incentives that have to be paid for, there's infrastructure and things like that. And what's that's doing is the piece that was really commodity, the electricity itself, is becoming in many cases a smaller and smaller portion of your bill. For some of our customers, the demand charges and other charges are more than the energy charge is. So the two factors there are, it's become more of a monoculture of energy to you as a customer, and therefore you're at higher risk of those things. And then number two, it's just becoming more volatile, more complex. And without that diversification, when you have that monoculture, a little hiccup like Ukraine, and I don't mean that in any negative way, that is a little hiccup, could send you skyrocketing. And again, there's no countervail there. If your electricity prices went up 70%, it's because gas went up 70%. So you have to take a more active role in looking at your energy procurement, understanding the markets, the correlation of those markets, to really, really make sure that you're getting the best value.
And you mentioned procurement. So, most companies have a really good, solid procurement department, and they're the ones that would handle a task like purchasing a commodity. So why isn't procuring energy the same as buying other commodities where we just leave that to our procurement department, and that's just one of the 100 things that they buy?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And the problem is that electricity really isn't a commodity anymore, right? Number one, and we mentioned this, if I'm buying, and I'll use a generic term, I'm buying a widget. I can source that widget from any foundry, machine shop across the globe, right? When I get an invoice from them, it'll say number of widgets, maybe there's going to be some tax and a delivery charge. Let's go back and look at your electric bill. Okay.
Sorry. Not quite so straight and to the
point. So there's so many other pieces in it that are not commodity oriented. Like I said, some of our customers, 60% of their bill is non-commodity charges. So putting it through to a standard purchasing department, complicated, just complicated. Number two is it's highly geographic. And what I mean by that is, again, let's go back to our widget guys here, right? If I was in one state versus the other state, the price of that widget would be probably the same. The taxes would be awfully, awfully close, but I might have a slightly different delivery charge. One's, 500 miles further away or something like that. In the electricity markets and the natural gas markets, those two spaces, they may be 500 miles apart, will be completely different as it relates to prices, regulations, and everything else. The energy markets are highly geographic, and versus commodities are highly globalized and sort of, in a sense, ubiquitous. So it's a lot easier. So again, it's really putting, a strain on purchasing departments because they can't, in a sense, they can't look at it the same way. If I was, a purchasing person for 14 plants and they all used widgets, I would then go and, negotiate for all 14 plants, consolidate it all together. I can't do that with energy, right? Because it's local. So I have to have 14 different energy contracts. The last one, and probably now this is becoming the most important, is a commodity by definition is sort of a fungible, inventoriable thing. Energy has now become strategic. And it's become strategic because of climate change, because of ESG, because of customer demand. So, and I don't mean this in a negative way against widgets. I picked widgets so nobody would email me and take offense. But whether I source the widget from one location or another location or one vendor versus another vendor, not that important. Now, if I'm buying brown energy and not green energy, or I'm not energy efficient and my carbon footprint is higher, et cetera, it affects my stock price. How often does a commodity purchase potentially affect
your stock price? Yeah.
Literally your investors. So it's just not like other commodities anymore.
And since it's moved from being a commodity purchase, that would just be handled locally at the procurement department, and now it's more of a strategic, investment. Who from a company should be involved in those conversations or in those decisions?
Yeah, it's a real interesting question, and I hate to make it more complicated, but I'm going to make it more complicated. There are two groups that need to be involved, and there's 3 phases in the process. So let's start first with the phases and then who's in each phase. So phase number 1 is, since energy has become strategic and energy has become so fully integrated into your products, your carbon footprint. I've got natural gas, dominating things and stuff like that. And with ESG goals, and let's take real estate people, right? We may in fact have carbon footprint restrictions coming up. I was just giving a talk in New York City. They passed an ordinance called LL97, which is going to give you penalties if your carbon footprint per square foot is more than, some amount or something like that. So people in management teams now have to put together goals and paths and strategies as how are we going to address our sustainability, how, that type of thing. That has to be integrated with what your procurement strategy is. So again, very different than commodity is I have to look maybe 5, 6, 7 years ahead in order to figure out what is the best procurement strategy, what's the best path forward for my, for my carbon intensity and things like that. So phase one is going to be your executive team, because they're the ones that eventually answer to the investors, board of directors, the whole ESG, and the customers themselves. So they're the ones that have to, with our help, let's say, put together a plan, a strategy for the future. How are we going to get there? The reality is they don't know how to do it. That's where we come in. We help them do that and can provide them with the guidance of the trade-offs and costs and performance and things like that. So now you essentially got a path. So you got a plan. Phase two then is implementation, and I'll call it tactical management. That's going to be your local site people. So your production manager, your operations people, and most importantly, your facilities people. Because again, this isn't just a one-time procurement of energy. We're going to have to work together to implement energy efficiency measures, electrification measures. Think about EV charging and all those things together. That is a local decision, but done in the context of the overall, I'll call it executive plan. Yeah. So that's phase two. And this is going to be wash, rinse, repeat. Phase three is then the reporting and review. So at the end of each period, whether that's a year, that's a quarter, we report back to the management team and all the operations people on how are we doing against our goal, our process, our projects, and things like that, and given new information, because man, the market is changing so quickly. It's a moving target out there. Do we need to reassess the plan and strategy and things and make some adjustments? And if we do, then we make adjustments. And then again, we go back to phase two, which is, okay, we have some new implementation side. So it's a combination of executive management and operations people. And then at the operations side, especially the facilities people.
I think that's the interesting positioning of, the concept of instead of just using the utility and then I have electrification over here and then, ESG over there. It's having that concierge utility to help build those plans and help, migrate from phase one to phase two, and somebody there to help, help quarterback that there's so much value in that.
Yeah. I mean, with the loss of the diversification and things, you really need an energy expert to study your energy consumption, how it works with your production and things like that, so you can get the best prices possible. And the implications are huge right now. So I'm going to pick an example of one of our customers. Standard tariff, looked like a good price, honestly, standard tariff, et cetera, but it was this standard tariff, meaning that you pay this much per kilowatt hour. You could use how much ever you wanted at anything point in time, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Hey, they're a manufacturer, right? They run a business. It's, these hours, they do these production things. So if you look at their load, it doesn't vary that much. In a sense, it's very predictable, right? Day in, day out, hour in, hour out, and everything else. By just moving them to a contract, what's called a block contract, where we tell the utility, hey, we guarantee we'll take this amount, so maybe it's 80% of what their usual or average is in that hour, and we only float, 20% of it on the index or something like that. We're able to save them 40%. And that has nothing to do with any great genius or intelligence. It's just getting them in the right programs for their energy usage.
Yeah.
And again, that's just something, but because of that lack of diversification, now you've got to look not only at your electricity consumption, you also look at their natural gas consumption because the correlation has gotten so high.
Yeah. And it's being at the middle to be able to tie those pieces together. You know, and as you look at the current market out there for companies to take advantage of like energy savings or green investments, what all programs are available to that commercial customer?
The problem is there are too many available, and they come to you as these siloed sort of things.
Yeah.
So I feel very sympathetic to management teams, especially facilities managers, energy managers, and the finance guys, because they're getting inundated with all kinds of different proposals. Oh, you should put solar on your rooftop. Isn't this great? Oh, under the IRA, you get this ITC, you get that. And well, oh, why don't we put some batteries in? Or, oh, hey, you could do this, you could do that, that type of thing. The problem is that they're not being essentially integrated into that plan. Going back to that phase one, is how do these things all work together? Yeah. And the big challenge is that by taking each one individually, you might say, I'm going to take the optimum one, but when you put everything together, it's suboptimized, right? And I think the thing that bothers me the most is, I'm going to say, the oversell and overhype, right? Oh, batteries are fantastic for you. You should have batteries because you can do all these things. It can be backup, it can be peak shaving, it can be price arbitrage, it can do all that. Yeah, no. Okay. And then, yeah, no is, can it do all of those things? Sure. It's a Swiss Army knife. But if you ever use a Swiss Army knife, you use one tool at a time, right? So if I say, hey, I got this battery, it's going to be great for backup, and then I decide to use it on price arbitrage because prices are high, and then the grid goes out, I've already used it up, it's not backup. Right? If I say, hey, I want to make sure that it's always charged so I could use it for some backup, then I don't get price arbitrage. I don't get peak shaving and things like that. So a lot of things get, in my opinion, oversold. Yeah. So from I say Exergy, but as a concierge utility, right? Mm-hmm. Our goal is to have the power that works for you. Yeah. We are technology agnostic. We're product agnostic. Whatever your needs are, your goals, your plans, we'll put together the assets, the technology, the procurement, and most importantly, we put all the capital together for you to reach those goals. Sometimes may include rooftop solar, and sometimes not. Sometimes it might be batteries, and sometimes not. It all comes down to what is the best thing for you.
And that confusion, the amount of calls that a company is getting about different types of programs that are available, and it's somebody who has one thing that they're trying to get you to buy, so they're positioning it as the thing that can do everything. It comes out from customers, and I'll get a customer that'll ask me, can I do this? And then instead of answering, I always ask them, why do you ask that? And then it usually comes out, somebody called me and told me that would be the answer to this problem. And then you do a little digging, you're like, yeah, that's not the
Well, it's funny. The company I started before Exergy, we built a lot, 425 megawatts of utility scale solar and stuff. And I have had companies, municipalities call me and say, can you help us with our solar? We're not saving the amount of money we expect. So you kind of look at it and you go, oh, it's a performance thing. Somebody hasn't tuned their inverters right, whatever the case may be. What you find is that at the time then the developer was selling it, they took their bill and they said, okay, you're spending this much per month, divide that by the kilowatt hours per month, and this is what you're spending. So you're spending 12 cents a kilowatt hour. We can put this solar in there and it's only 9 cents a kilowatt hour. Hey, I'm going to save all this money. Well, it's coming back to this, look at your bill, right? Half of your bill might be non-energy charges that solar isn't going to do anything with, or for you on that. And Also, things have changed from historically. Usually your peak demand happened during the afternoon, between 2 and 5, because, we didn't have as much air conditioning in
Yeah.
homes, et cetera, et cetera. And we also did more manufacturing than we do today. Now, peak demand is happening early evening. It's usually like 7 to 11 or 7 to 9 at night is when your peak demand charges are going to hit you. And it's when everybody goes home and turns their air conditioner
Yeah,
on, or,
free TV.
or something like that. But so I put solar on my rooftop. I'm in a business and everything else. It's not going to help my peak demand
Yeah.
charges at all
Yeah.
for that, because by the time the peak demand charge is hitting, the solar's off, kind of thing. So you've got to be careful. And since we don't make money unless our customers essentially save money and things like that, that's why we're extraordinarily hyper objective in everything we look
Yeah,
at.
and you talk about the complexity, all the things that are coming at customers, and how this vertical, the energy vertical, has changed from a commodity to now there really are some very specific things that you can do to not only protect your facility from an energy perspective, but also save significant amounts of money while you're doing it. You really do need somebody to help you. So if you looked at that customer and they say, I need a concierge utility. What if you could categorize it? What would be the biggest benefits to me as a customer? So what will this allow me to do if I have somebody help me? What would you say to them as a business leader?
So, what is the most important asset of a company?
Yeah.
And that is, I'm going to say, the passion and the brain power of the team being all of the employees, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera. What you want them to do is to be focused on what the value is that you create for your customer. That's what you want them focused on.
Yeah.
You don't want them focused on chasing a penny here, a penny there on kilowatts. That's not going to grow your top line. That's not going to increase your customer satisfaction. What you want is peace of mind. So when we talk to executives and say, what do you want in a concierge utility? They basically say 4 things. I want to be resilient. If the grid goes down, I want to keep running because I've got to service my customers. That's what's most important to me, is my customers. Number 2, I need to be green and sustainable. One, that's highly, highly important now for employees. One of the things we just saw in a recent survey is green mission-driven companies have an order of magnitude easier time recruiting new employees. The younger people, and this isn't a negative or positive, are much more mission and culture driven. And it's important to them, but also customers, right? So they want to be green, they want to be sustainable. They have to answer to their customers, they got to answer to their board of directors, and they got to answer to their investors. So they want to be green, they want to be resilient. Bottom line is, I want to save money. I've got to do these things. I don't know. Reality is, I don't know how. I don't have the time. And this comes back to the people thing. And if I go and hire an expert to do this for me, that's expensive. But am I fully utilizing this person, and how do I manage him? How do I manage somebody who is doing a job that I fundamentally don't understand? Right? And more importantly is, what's their career path?
Yeah.
I make, I always pick on bakeries, right? So we bake bread. I'm going to get an energy expert who's going to trade natural gas, electricity, and figure out all the incentives and everything else. After a couple of years, they want to grow. They want to do, they want to grow in their career. Are they going to become a baker? Don't think so. So what happens is, those positions that are not core to your mission and your business become a revolving door. And then you have the same problem. Now I got to go recruit somebody. Very expensive. It's going to be open for some period of time. Now that position is uncovered. What risk am I taking on my energy procurement and things like that? So that idea of saving money is more than
A
just
couple cents off a kilowatt.
couple of cents per kilowatt hour or something like
Yeah.
that. Is how do I manage? And then lastly, the thing that they want is, we are a bakery or something. We want to take our capital and we want to use it to grow our business. We are not a power company. We're not an energy company. We don't want to own, backup generators and batteries. And so we don't want to own that stuff. Why? Because then we have to think about it. We got to manage it. It's expensive. We have to pay for it. And every dollar that we're not putting into growing our business, we're essentially, and I'm going to say this in a really weird way, whatever we're not reinvesting in our business, we're stealing from our investors, our employees, and our customers. Grow your business, focus on your top line. The energy stuff might hit your bottom line a little bit, but it's only actually a little bit. The most important thing is focus on your business, build it. The growth of your top line is the most important aspect of the valuation of your enterprise. Top line growth, organic growth, new sales, new customers, customer acquisition, that will do more for the value of your company than, again, trying to hire and manage an energy expert who's not going to be full-time employed by you anyway.
And then he's going to leave and go somewhere else for career growth.
He's going to leave and go somewhere else.
So
outsource it to us.
So if I am that customer and I hear this and I realize I do need help and I want to engage Exergy and all that, having a concierge utility, delivers for me, what's the best way for a company to reach out?
Well, there's one thing I want to mention is a little different. And I want to reiterate, we are your concierge utility. We'll provide the energy, we provide the equipment and everything else. We are not a consulting firm. And let me explain what I mean by that. We will definitely consult for you. We will provide guidance, what's the best path forward and all those things. We don't charge for that. We're not handing you a plan and saying, pay me $50,000, pay me $100,000 for this plan, and you go figure out how to implement it. The problem is then it never gets done because they don't know how to implement it, because they don't have the right people, et cetera, et cetera. So a concierge utility is, we make our money by servicing your energy needs, not by telling you how to do something, but by literally delivering it to you in the most optimal, value-driven way possible, right? So I just want people to understand, you're not calling us up and I'm going to say, yeah, we'll engage you in a consulting thing. Not our problem, or not our issue here. Reality is, it sounds too good to be true, right? You'll make me green, make me resilient, save me money, and not cost me anything up front. It sounds too good to be true. What's the hook? The catch is, we're getting married. We're going to be your utility, but you will sign a long-term, procurement agreement with us. We'll provide the equipment and all those things necessary. We manage it. We service it. We do all those things. We make our money making you successful, not in giving you a report. If you're interested in talking to us, you can go to our website and just, contact us there. There are a tremendous number of resources on our site. So if you really like to learn more about how we do what we do and what's going on in the market, we ran an entire webinar series, literally do it yourself. If you wanted to do all the things that we do, we show you how to do it. You don't want to, but we show you how to do it. But there's ebooks and, a lot of webinars and videos and things like that. The other way is you can drop me a note, just March, that's the same as the month, at exergyenergy.com, or drop us a note on LinkedIn and just reach out to us and we'll get right back to you.
Well, thanks for your time, Dave. This has been helpful. And then again, if there are any other questions, feel free to reach out to us and we'll make sure to respond as quickly as possible. Everybody have a great day. And thanks again, Dave, for your time.
Thanks, Randall. Take care. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.